Sutton United have asked the public to win the club the Premier League title. So I've decided to take on the challenge. And Sutton even asked for my address to send me some Sutton United gifts. And now I am properly dressed to complete this challenge. Sutton United play in England's 5th division, so we need to earn 4 promotions just to get to the Premier League, let alone win it. So we need a plan of action. First, we need to get promoted to the Football League. This should be easy. Then our next objective is to build with youth to get ourselves to the Championship. At that point, we need to bring in some more established talent to get promoted to the Premier League. When that happens, we have to become a selling club to reinvest in some international wonderkids that we can develop. That should create a very clear pathway for us to complete the challenge and win the Premier League title. We actually already have a slight head start on objective number 2, developing younger players to reach the Championship. Jack Wadham signed for Sutton in summer, and the former Bournemouth under-18 captain has decent potential in Football Manager, so we need to turn him into one of the club's star midfielders. We're going to get him tutored up by Lincoln City's 2016-2017 Player of the Season, Alex Woodyard, who will play far too many games for us purely because he's one of my favourite footballers ever. They're going to be our midfield 2 in a 4-2-3-1, where we're looking to utilise our wide players to be successful. Sutton were relegated from League 2 last season, so I'm hoping we can bounce back at the first time of asking. Judging by the first 2 months of the season, that was looking likely. Ashley Nadeson, on loan from Gillingham, was proving to be an effective goalscorer. He led the front line as we won 7 of our first 10 games of the season, but at the end of October, we stuttered a bit. We went on a run of games where we couldn't win, losing to Southend, Wealdstone, Maidenhead and Aldershot. We did manage to recover, but this did affect us. At the halfway point of the season, we're 4th in the table, 9 points behind league leaders Altrincham. We managed to kick things up a gear in the second half of the season. Ashley Nadeson was still scoring plenty of goals for us, but as the season went on, I pushed him out on the right wing so we could get 20-year-old Henry Sandat in the starting team. And Henry was proving his worth to the side by scoring some important goals. He got a brace against Barnet and helped rescue a 3-3 draw, as well as scoring the winner against Gateshead. But there was another player who was in and amongst the goals, and you would not normally expect this guy to be there. I may have put Alex Woodyard on penalties this season, and we were given a lot of them. In fact, Alex Woodyard scored 14 goals across the season, and 11 of them were from the penalty spot. Despite his finishing being just 4 out of 20, the man knows how to beat the keeper. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough for us to overturn Altringham's lead, as they win the title by 9 points, condemning us to the playoffs. By finishing second, we get a bye into the semi-finals, where we're taking on Barnet for a chance to play Yeovil in the final. But it was Barnet who took the lead 30 minutes in, as Garton was left wide open on the edge of the penalty area and scored. So we made sure to stop them getting close to the penalty area, but Barnet still managed to score from distance. At 2-0 down, things looked desperate, but Henry Sandat came through and scored a huge goal for us to get back in the game. But Barnet was stronger in the second half, and a Callum Stead goal sealed a 3-1 win for the Bees. So there is no promotion for us in Season 1. We have to do better next time out. We've been given 60 grand to spend, but I turned all of it into wage budget as I'm targeting free transfers. We welcomed 4 new faces to the side on July 1st after their contracts expired at their old clubs. Then as July went on, we signed 9 more players on free transfers to replace all our outgoings. The best of the bunch is 21-year-old striker Keon Edwards, who was released from Arsenal over summer and is now the club's top earner. But if he can fire us to promotion, I don't mind spending the money. Just behind him is shadow striker Rico Richards, who left Villa over summer. This season we're switching to a 5-2-3, where our wing backs will get forwards and help create a front 5 in attack. It took a while for the new boys to get going. After a loss to Gateshead and a draw to York City, both Edwards and Richards finally found the back of the net as we beat Southend 3-0. This was the start of a rich vein of form for both players. We beat other playoff contenders with ease, like Dorking and Halifax, whilst making sure we made small work of teams further down the table. By the halfway point, we're top of the pile, 2 points ahead of York City, who are our only real rivals for the title this season. But we soon lost our lead at the top, as York then beat us 1-0. However, we played hard for the rest of the season and didn't lose a game. Keon Edwards was performing at an even higher level and was scoring a goal almost every game in our pursuit of a title. Interestingly, centre mid Jack Wadham was also impressing this season with his goal scoring. He made sure we avoided defeat against Dorking in a 1-1 draw and started us off in a 4-0 win over Eastleigh. The only issue is, York City have completely matched our results. With 5 games to go, despite having 101 points, we aren't guaranteed the title or promotion because York are just 2 points behind us. So whilst we beat Solihull Moors 4-2, York secured victory away at South Shields to keep the pressure up, and we crumbled under that pressure. We went down south to Forest Green Rovers, who got the better of us, thrashing us 3-1. I'm blaming the insane kit clash. At the same time, York won 3-2 against Accrington Stanley to go top of the table with 3 games to go. Things got even worse as we then lost 1-0 to Halifax at home, whereas York won, giving them a 4-point lead with 2 games to go. We were handed a lifeline when York drew their next match 1-1 with Ebbsfleet United, but we couldn't capitalise. We drew 1-1 with Scunthorpe United, and that's only because Alex Woodyard scored a penalty late on. With a 4-point gap and 1 game to go, York City lift the title and earn promotion, meaning it's once again the playoffs for us. After beating Oldham on the final day of the season, we faced Yeovil in the playoff semi-finals, and a single goal from right-back Josh Davidson was enough to secure a spot in the final. Here we need to get revenge on Forest Green Rovers, the side who stopped us winning the title. But once again, they were nullifying us. We didn't have a single shot until the 27th minute, when Keon Edwards' header came back off the post and was scrambled away. At half-time, the stats showed just how bad of a match it was. Our next chance came an hour into the game, when we were forced to shoot from distance, and again, we were denied by the woodwork. It just felt like it wasn't going to be our day. Until we were able to recycle a corner and play it around the edge of the penalty area, giving it to centre-back Hayden Muller, who lashed it home to give us the lead. Buoyed by this, we pushed for a second, and after some neat play down the far side of the pitch, Jack Wadham almost scored an absolute screamer. Forest Green came close to themselves 10 minutes from time as Adam May put his effort just wide of the post, but thankfully, that was the closest they got. We win the game 1-0 and earn promotion to League 2, ticking off stage 1 of the plan. I mean, we did get the 3rd highest points total in National League history this past season. If we didn't win in the playoffs, it would have been a travesty. The club celebrated promotion by being taken over by the Supporters Trust, meaning the club is now fan-owned, and they gave us an enormous £15,000 to spend this summer. Luckily, everyone that we signed last year is on a 2-year deal, so we only actually brought in 3 new players. Robert Cook is going to be our new starting keeper and will hopefully turn into a huge sellable asset for us. I also feel like getting Leo Cardoso was a big coup after the highly rated youngster left Chelsea at the end of his contract. But a week before the season opener, Portsmouth put in a bid worth up to £1.9 million for Keon Edwards. But I said give me £2.5 million up front instead, and they said yes. So I began on planning how to spend this money, all for Edwards to say no to the contract. I'm not mad, he's a great player for us, but £2.5 million, we could have done so much with that money. So to make up for it, he has to get us promoted. And to be fair, he was doing an incredible job. After scoring in our season-opening 3-2 win against Barrow, he scored a 93rd minute winner against MK Dons. He also helped us beat Morecambe 2-0 at home, Crawley away from home 3-0, and once again got the game's only goal, as we beat Gillingham 1-0 at their place. With 14 goals, he was the league's top scorer at the halfway point, as we sit 5 points clear of Doncaster at the top of the table. But the second half of the season didn't quite go to plan. Perhaps it was my fault for not making enough summer signings, or maybe it was the summer signings' fault for underperforming. Leo Cardoso, for example, only scored 6 goals all season. And maybe trusting a 19-year-old goalkeeper wasn't the best idea, as we kept conceding more and more goals as the season went on. We lost to Wimbledon 4-0 away from home, Cheltenham beat us 2-0, and Bradford City came to our place and beat us 1-0. In fact, we had a really rough spell of form. Whilst we didn't lose many games, we didn't win many games either. Thankfully though, we did enough work in the first half of the season to secure automatic promotion in second place, with Keon Edwards once again the league's top scorer. But if he turns down a big money move away from the club again, there's going to be issues with us. The fans could only raise £2,500 for our transfer budget this summer. Luckily, we were able to sell 2 players, including Leo Cardozo, for £1.5 million to Hull. He was our least effective attacker last season, but he was the one who had 5 championships and a Premier League club chasing after him. Sonny Perkins is the man who replaces him. The former Leyton Orient player looks like an ideal shadow striker, and I'm expecting a huge goal haul. Most excitingly though, we have our own youngster to promote. Austin Oladelli came through our Season 1 intake, and although he's a natural left winger, a position that we don't use, we're training him up to play through the middle. But he wouldn't get much game time because Rico Richards and Sonny Perkins were proving to be incredible behind Keon Edwards. The 3 of them were the holy trinity of League One: the goal scorer, the assister, and the holy moly, you are incredible. Edwards was the scorer. By the halfway mark of the season, he'd notched up 11 League One goals and 17 in all competitions. He was leading the line beautifully, and there is now a small part of me that's very pleased he turned down that contract at Portsmouth. Rico Richards was the assister. He was providing a lot of assists for Edwards, but was also scoring plenty of his own goals too. Sonny Perkins was the holy moly, you are incredible. Not only did he have 9 assists, but he also scored 16 League One goals to make him the league's top scorer by the halfway stage. And we only signed him because we sold Cardoso. If that didn't happen, we'd have never have witnessed Perkins' talents. So with Perkins and Edwards the top scorers in the league, as you'd expect, we sit top of the table. But we have played an extra game than Oxford and 3 more games than Bristol Rovers. An injury to Keon Edwards on New Year meant that backup striker Luca Fletcher, signed from Norwich over summer, was given a run of games, and he took the opportunity with both hands. He played 8 matches in a row and scored 6 goals. If we ever lose Edwards, we know we already have a ready-made replacement. When Edwards eventually got back into the side, we did seem to lose some momentum, losing to Bolton, Wimbledon and Portsmouth at the end of February and in early March. This means with 5 games to go, we fall away from the top spot and are now in a 4-way battle for the title and automatic promotion with Oxford, Plymouth and Bristol Rovers. The first of our final 5 games was against Oxford United, who took the lead 3 minutes in, but we fought back and scored through centre-back Antonio Tikvic before Keon Edwards scored the match winner late on. A few days later, we welcomed Plymouth, who were given an early penalty that they went on to score. But once again, we fought back, as Luca Fletcher got us on level terms, and then he scored the winner midway through the second half to put us in pole position. With 3 games to go, the title is ours to lose. But a goalless draw with Rotherham meant things could backfire. Luckily, we then won 3-1 against Salford with Keon Edwards scoring himself a hat-trick. This means with a game to go, we're almost certainly getting automatic promotion because of the goal difference to Plymouth. But if we don't win, Oxford could beat us to the title. So we have a job to do in Carlisle, and it didn't take long for us to get going. Left wing back Cohen Bramall found Perkins in the penalty area, who played it across for Edwards to tap it in. A few minutes later, Bramall was involved again, laying off Rico Richards, who made it too. And when right wing back Jay Ben fed the ball through to Keon Edwards to make it 3-0, it felt like the game was over just 14 minutes in. I started celebrating our title in the 35th minute when Jay Ben added a 4th to our tally, which it turns out we did need, because whilst Carlisle didn't score a screamer, they did score the tap-in on the follow-up. They also then scored a pretty decent goal just before the halftime whistle. Then when they scored a 3rd goal 56 minutes in, I was beginning to panic. We hung on until the 90th minute, but Carlisle had a free kick from distance. But Robert Cook made an incredible save to win the match and the League One title. So we've been promoted to the Championship whilst having 16 players under 25 years old. So I think that means we can tick off objective number 2. This is where things are going to get tough though. So that's why I transfer listed Keon Edwards and offered him out to clubs. Hull City came back with an £8 million bid, which I accepted, and he was gone. Thank you for your services to the club, Keon. We could not have done it without you. We salute you, and we all press that subscribe button right now to pay homage to you. It's what he would have wanted. We replaced him with Pau Victor, who we signed from Barcelona. It might have been Barcelona's B team, but it was still £1.5 million paid to a Barcelona club. We also say goodbye to a club legend, as Alex Woodyard now retires from football. But don't you worry, we have replaced him with another former Lincoln City Player of the Season, Lasse Sorensen, who joins with a bunch of other experienced players to help us out this season. We struggled to adapt to life in the Championship early on, as we lost games to Fulham, West Bromwich Albion and Hull City. Thankfully, it wasn't Keon Edwards scoring for Hull. So I played around with a few different formations and tactical styles, but nothing ever quite seemed to get us in a good run of form. We won games here and there, drew every once in a while, but ended up losing a lot. Pau Victor was a bright spark in a dark spell, as he did replace Edwards well and was our top scorer at the halfway stage of the season. We have 25 points from 23 games. If we can get a point per game, that should be good enough to see us avoid relegation. But in January, we ran into a really bad bit of form. From the 7 games we played across the month, we drew 3 and lost 4. So something has to change. I stopped messing around with the tactics and went back to the 5-2-3 that worked for us since Season 2, and results began to turn around. It was especially useful for Sonny Perkins and Pau Victor, who both scored more goals as we won more games from February onwards. But it still wasn't anything special. With 47 points, we avoid the drop by 2 points and live to fight another season in the Championship. With £6 million to spend this summer, we can certainly do some good work. Converting most of the transfer budget into wage budgets, we found great quality in the free agent market. Thomas Handel has over 150 top-flight appearances in Portugal and will be the playmaker of the side. After 5 seasons at Lyon, Tanner Tessman has the experience that we need to bully other teams in the middle of the park. And Reece Oxford brings Bundesliga talent to the team as we look to climb up the table. And they were certainly having an effect on the group, as Tessman scored our first goal of the season in a 3-0 win over Bristol Rovers. One big surprise was left wing back Ryan Giles. The 29-year-old had a knack of being in the right place at the right time and was starting to rack up the goals, helping us beat Derby County, Blackburn Rovers and Queen's Park Rangers. Season 6 was looking way better than Season 5, as we sit 9th in the table at the halfway points. And it only got better from here on out. Pau Victor had a slow start to the season, but was now playing at his best, as his brace helped us beat Bristol City 2-1, and he also scored twice in a 4-0 victory against bottom of the table Blackburn Rovers. The addition of experienced players was a game changer for us, and I'm feeling so confident in our ability to get promoted to the Premier League next season. We just miss out on the playoffs this time around by 5 points. But in Season 7, we have to be in that playoff mix. We have £9 million to spend this summer, and we have to make it count. We sold £7 million worth of players to up our budget, which meant we spent £10 million on new players, most of whom are established with top-flight experience. Maxime Esteve becomes our record signing after we paid Burnley £4 million for the centre-back. Javi Lopez on a free feels like an inspired signing to compete with Ryan Giles at left wing-back, and going against the grain, I've taken a gamble on David Tavares Fernandez. At just 19 years old, he looks superb. I'm just worried he isn't physical enough for the Championship. And that did seem to be the case. Whilst he did score goals, they were few and far between. And he wasn't our main goal scoring threat in the first half of the season. That accolade went to the former PSV Eindhoven man, Gus Till. He scored several important goals, like in a 3-2 win against Sunderland, he got us a late draw away at Crystal Palace, and he scored a 96th minute penalty against Stoke to win 2-1. That means at the halfway stage, we sit 3rd in the table, just 2 points away from Sunderland at the top. Sadly for us, Gus Till got a big injury in January, so we had to rely on other experienced attackers who all stepped up. Pau Victor ended up scoring more goals than David Tavares Fernandez. The 29-year-old was showing the 19-year-old how it was done, and hopefully DTF has learnt from him. But it was Randy Schneider who was making the biggest impact, as the Swiss attacking midfielder became our top scorer, and was helping us hop to the top. Randy kept results going, as we had a brief slump in February, and he was instrumental to getting back to success in March. With 5 games to go, we now sit 2nd in the table. There is an outside shot of the title, but we do control our own destiny for automatic promotion. Incredibly, it was DTF who was now carrying us, as he scored the goals in a 1-0 victory against Sheffield United and a 2-0 win against Oxford United, both of these games at home. Brentford and Stoke both dropped points, so we're now 2 points clear of Crystal Palace with 3 games to go. But we then lost our next match 2-1 away at Derby County, which would prove to be crucial as Crystal Palace won their match to leapfrog us in the table and gift Sunderland the title. But we played Palace next, and thanks to some terrible defending, Pal Victor wins us the match 1-0 in the 96th minute. So heading into the final game of the season away at Cardiff, if we win and Brentford don't score 3 more goals than us against relegated Notts County, we'll be automatically promoted. Now Brentford won 3-0, but we managed to win 3-1, which means we stay ahead of the Bees and earn ourselves automatic promotion to the Premier League. We've done it with experienced players, which ticks off objective number 3. Signing experienced players in the Premier League is expensive though, both in terms of transfer fees and wages. This is where the fun begins. To be cost effective, we're going to cash in on our older experienced players and use that money to bring in some young wonder kids from other countries. And with an initial budget of £30 million, we should be able to buy quite a few of them, especially because we raised an extra £12 million through player sales. So I spent £34 million on mostly young players. My policy was to look for under 21 players who already have at least 1 international cap. That's how we identified Algerian midfielder Sid, as he has 3 caps for his country at 20 years old. We also signed his international midfield partner Ben Raba, who has 5 caps for Algeria at 19 years old. But the signing of summer might be striker Ronaldo Rivas, who signed for just £500,000 from Sporting Cristal in Peru. He's got 5 international caps and 1 goal at 20 years old. So with an army of wonder kids, let's see if we can survive the Premier League. We went 1-0 down to Sunderland in our opening game of the season, but we got going in the second half when we were given a penalty 65 minutes in. Then American left wing back Neil Morris put us in front 2 minutes later before Anel Zulic and Patson Daka also scored to win 4-1, putting us second in the table. That was the end of the good news though. We then didn't win again in the Premier League until November. In between those 2 wins, we drew 5 and lost 4, so we weren't exactly easy to beat. Our second win of the season was lucky though. In the 86th minute, we were 2-0 down, but Ronaldo Rivas scored the first, Paul Fortuny scored the second, and then Rivas got the winner in the 95th minute. So whilst we aren't the worst team in the league, we're not far off, as we're only a point outside the relegation zone at the halfway stage. The second half of the season wasn't much better. Once again, we were losing plenty of games and it did feel like relegation was looming. But it turns out Ronaldo Rivas was an inspired signing, as he scored in 2 of our 3 wins in the second half of the season. In total, he scored 18 goals, which is part of the reason we drew so many matches. In our other win in the second half of the season, it was DTF who got the goal, which gave us the points that we needed. We avoid the drop by 1 point and live to fight another season in the Premier League. We have an initial budget of £38 million to spend this summer, and I think we need to improve our defence. So we spent an insane £32 million on Antonio Guimarães from Estoril in Portugal, but I think this 19-year-old centre-back is worth it. After selling Kusanov to Saudi Arabia for £9.5 million, we also signed Mexico's first-choice keeper, Victor Alvarez, from Atlas Guadalajara for £6.5 million, before rounding off our business with Brazilian midfielder Rogério for £9 million from Santos to help out the Algerian duo. At the start of Season 9, things didn't improve though, although we did have a tough start to the season with games away at Man City and Spurs, as well as a home tie with Liverpool. We lost all 3 of them. We got our first win against Bournemouth, with right wing back Damian Martinez getting the late winner. Ronaldo Rivas was also scoring. He slotted home a penalty against Leicester to win 1-0, before getting a hat-trick at home against Arsenal as we blasted our way past the Gunners as 3-1 victors. But they were just good games in a sea of losses. We've actually lost 1 more game at the halfway stage of the season compared to last time out. So although we're not in the relegation zone, 16 points is a poor and worse return than we had last season. Thankfully, we had a much better second half of the season, as we actually had some good spells of form. After beating Spurs 2-1 in January, we went on a 7-game unbeaten run, winning 3 of them, which saw us collect a very healthy points total. In fact, we only lost 3 times in the new year up until the end of the season. So if we can turn a lot of these draws into wins, we could be on for a great season next time out. Ronaldo Rivas had another exceptional season with 23 goals, but he's basically the only player getting them. Randy Schneider was second, and he only got 4 goals in all competitions across the season. We end the season 14th in the table, which is very respectable given we only had 16 points at the halfway mark. Thanks to sustained Premier League money, we now have 62 million to spend this off-season. And with a selection of older players leaving the club for 33 million, we have a war chest to play with. Simone Scotter was a new man to play behind the striker. I'm expecting him to get double-figure goals this season. If he doesn't score, then 29-year-old Marco Nasti might be the man that we need to grab goals off the bench. We also spent a lot on 19-year-old Zeno Woodrow from Fulham to replace the outgoing Ronnie Edwards. We now have 13 players under the age of 23 in the squad. Thanks to sustained Premier League money, we don't have to rely on only signing youngsters from a financial point of view anymore. So I think we have completed objective number 4, and all that's left to do now is sign the right players to win the Premier League title. Scotter was having an impact on the team and was in the best goal scoring form out of our attacking midfielders, but not by much. In fact, no one was really having an outrageous season of scoring goals. At the halfway mark, Ronaldo Rivas was leading the way, but he only has 7 goals in all competitions. The difference this time around was our defence, and we were now keeping way more clean sheets and winning plenty of games 1-0. We beat Newcastle, Liverpool and Wolves all by that scoreline in just September, for example. So whilst going forwards isn't quite there yet, we sit 4th in the table with the 4th fewest amount of goals conceded. Just ignore the fact we're only 10th in the table for goals scored. So I'm switching our tactical mentality from positive to attacking, and hopefully that's going to help us score more goals. This move especially helped David Tavares Fernandez, who went from an outcast to one of our most valuable players. His goals in games like a 2-0 win against Crystal Palace or getting the win against Brentford in a 2-1 win earned us a ton of points. Previously, his best season had been when he scored 16 goals when he played every single match of a championship season. In the second half of this season alone, DTF has scored 11 goals, which is an insane turnaround. Scotter and Rivas were both up there with goals as well. Scotter has 10 in all competitions, whilst Rivas has 20, as the switch in mentality paid dividends. We finished the season in 3rd place, 7 points from the title, and qualify for the Champions League. It looks like we are closer to completing this challenge than I thought. We've now been given a whopping 83 million to prepare for the new season. I don't actually know if I could spend all of this. I'm really happy with the team that we have right now. So I only spent half of that on 2 players. Benatos arrives for £39 million from Freiburg to be our new playmaker through the middle. Then we're adding more attacking midfield talent with Franco Mastantuono for a criminally low fee of just £4.9 million from River Plate. By the way, in reality, this man is 17 years old. So his photo in game, this one here, is him at 17. How is this man a decade younger than me, but he looked a decade older? Yes, I am aware that the bucket hat that's too small and the keyring earring is not helping my look. I get that. Back on topic, we did have a good start to the season. Franco was proving himself to be an astute signing, as his brace helped us beat Everton 2-1, and he scored the only goal of the game away at Arsenal for another 3 points. But the team started to lose control when the Champions League game started, and we were spread thin. We only have a 22-man squad, which just isn't enough when you have so many extra games. So we were losing to teams that we didn't lose to last season, like Nottingham Forest and Leeds United. So that means at the halfway stage of the season, we're only 12th and look a long way off where we were last season. In the Champions League, things were a bit different. We only lost once when Inter Milan came to visit, but other than that, We won 4 and drew 3, which felt very respectable in the league phase. It puts us 10th in that league phase table, meaning we go to the playoff knockout rounds, where we managed to beat Lazio 2-0, but we got Tottenham in the round of 16 and they managed to beat us. But this was a blessing in disguise, because it meant that our small team could focus just on the Premier League. After we got knocked out, we only lost one more game in the Premier League, which was a 2-0 loss away to Brighton. Ronaldo Rivas was a man possessed, as he collected 17 Premier League goals, helping us climb up the table. But Franco managed to get 12 in the league and 20 in all competitions, meaning we finally have a reliable second goal scorer in the side. It wasn't quite enough for the top 4, and we do finish with less points than last season, but our 5th place does turn into a Champions League spot, thanks to England finishing top of UEFA's coefficient rankings. Being in the Champions League is good, because it means big money. We have £103 million to expand the squad this summer. So I spent £101 million on 5 new players to have a much larger squad to compete on multiple fronts this season. Kevin Sullivan is the most expensive of the bunch. After making over 100 appearances for Liverpool and collecting 71 caps for the United States, it's time for him to fulfill his potential at Sutton United. But the biggest impact might belong to Jonah Kusi Asare, who we signed on a free after he left Wolfsburg. He's a very different striker to Ronaldo Rivas, and some might argue a better striker, particularly because he's got lots of pace. Either way, it's going to give us lots of options this season. But with so many extra players coming in and out of a team, it didn't quite click. We beat Everton 5-2 on the opening day of the season, but then we drew our next 6 matches in a row, and 2 of those draws were rescued by scoring in the 91st and 93rd minutes. So actually, we got very lucky to avoid defeat in some of those games. But after things settled down, we got into our stride. We won 7 and drew 1 of our following 8 games, with new striker Jonah getting most of the goals, as he was preferred to Rivas, who was struggling to find the back of the net early doors. In fact, Jonah's 11 goals makes him the league's top scorer at the halfway stage. Our only loss up until New Year was away at Chelsea, who, fair play to them, outclassed us on the day, and we did deserve to lose that match. But thanks to all our draws, we're only 3rd in the table, 2 points behind Newcastle, and 7 points behind Arsenal at the top of the pile. In the new year, we went on another 7-game winning streak. Centre-back Lucas Lachetta scored a hat-trick, all headed goals from corners, as we beat West Ham 3-2 in London. Jonah also scored a hat-trick, they were all from open play, in a 4-0 win on the South Coast, away at Southampton. But these 7 wins came against teams in the bottom half of the table, against the likes of Leeds United and Leicester City. When we had to play teams in the top half of the table, we lost 3-2 away at Nottingham Forest and 3-0 away at Newcastle United. But with 7 games to go, we have been able to leapfrog Arsenal at the top of the Premier League table and now hold a 4-point lead over the Gunners. Arsenal had a very different run of fixtures to us, playing a lot of teams in the top half of the table where they slipped up. But I think that's now about to change, especially because we now have to play 5 of the league's top 10 in our final 7 matches, starting with Arsenal. The Gunners were looking like they were going to win this one, after Jonah had a penalty saved and Gabriel Martinelli scored on the stroke of half-time. But in the 96th minute, the referee played advantage following a foul on Franco, which led to centre mid Rogerio scoring a banger to earn us a draw. We then got back to winning ways as Jonah scored a hat-trick against Liverpool, and at the same time, Arsenal lost. But then a 2-0 loss away at Manchester United made us vulnerable once again. Luckily, attacking midfielder Simone Scotta scored a 27-minute hat-trick against Chelsea to earn us a huge 3 points and give us a nice boost in goal difference. Arsenal's fall-off continues and they drop down the table. This means we're now in a battle with Tottenham Hotspur, who we have to play on the final day of the season. They're 4 points behind us with 3 games to go, so fingers crossed it doesn't come down to a final day battle. Annoyingly though, we could only draw our next game at home against West Ham, as they scored the equaliser with 10 minutes to go. But Spurs lost 2-0 to Liverpool at the same time. So this means we now have a 5-point gap to the North London teams, with 2 games to go. So if we can beat West Brom, we win the title and complete the challenge set by Sutton United themselves. An early free kick was well defended by West Brom. The eventual header goalwards was weak and wide. We didn't get another highlight until late in the first half when we headed a corner over the crossbar. At the same time, Spurs are 1-0 up against Manchester United. So, according to the live table, they're now just 2 points behind us. At half time, I got aggressive with the boys, but it didn't seem to work. 66 minutes in, we've had 19 shots, but clearly none of them are good because we've seen 0 highlights. So off comes Jonah for Rivas and Franco for DTF. Meanwhile, Manchester United have pulled level against Spurs. So as the live table shows, if results stay the same, the title will be ours. But we want to win the Premier League in style. So we work the ball across the attacking third to the near side of the pitch and still couldn't score. With the clock running down, time was running out for us to take the lead. But Tottenham and Arsenal also drew, which means in the most boring way possible, we end up winning the Premier League title and complete the challenge set to us by Sutton United themselves. This was so much fun to complete, and big thanks to Sutton United for sending me a load of their gear and getting involved with the Football Manager community. If you enjoyed this video, I know you're going to love this one. Formula 1 driver Pierre Gasly owns a football club, and I was sent their jersey so I could take the team from the French 3rd Division and make them champions of France. Click the thumbnail on screen right now to see how we did and to see the jersey. It is genuinely one of the most beautiful and elegant football shirts I have ever seen. It's so cool.